Captain Jessica Kwan stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, which looked less like a courtroom and more like someone had designed a government building while having a seizure. Floating platforms, unnecessary holographic displays, and three extremely pompous aliens staring down at her like she had just tracked mud onto their very expensive carpet. Ambassador Krill, who looked like a flamingo that had gone through a corporate restructuring, ruffled his purple feathers and spoke in that special tone reserved for people who have never been punched in the face. Captain Kwan, you stand accused of excessive violence, disregard for civilized warfare protocols, and general barbarism unbecoming of a starship officer. Jess raised an eyebrow. I saved 3,000 colonists from pirates. You, Overseer Tannex interrupted, his slug-like body quivering with indignation, used a cargo loader to throw 17 enemy combatants into space. The cargo loader was right there. You, Chancellor Vorn chimed in, his crystalline form refracting light in an annoyingly dramatic way, then proceeded to use their own ship's weapons to destroy their fleet. Again, the weapons were right there. Would you have preferred I asked them nicely to stop shooting at civilians? Krill's feathers puffed up. We have protocols, Captain. Civilized species follow rules of engagement. We do not resort to, he paused dramatically, creativity. Jess blinked. You're firing me for being creative. We are terminating your commission for being human, Tannex said, somehow making it sound even worse. Your species has been in the galactic community for only 30 years, and already you have demonstrated a concerning pattern of, how do I put this, winning fights too effectively. So, to be clear, Jess said slowly, I'm being dishonorably discharged because I saved lives too efficiently. Vorn's crystal structure shifted into what might have been a shrug. Essentially, yes. Security drones will escort you out. Your personal effects will be returned to Earth. We wish you well in your future endeavors, preferably far away from civilized space. Two floating drones appeared at her sides, their lights blinking in what the manufacturer probably thought was a friendly pattern, but actually made them look like they were having mechanical panic attacks. As she was escorted out, Jess caught her reflection in one of the unnecessarily shiny walls. Her shoulder tattoo was visible under her tank top, a geometric pattern she had gotten during shore leave on Earth after too many whiskeys and a bet with her engineer. She had thought it looked cool. The tattoo artist, Angry Eddie, had said it was from some old Sci-Fi magazine. Looking at it now, being marched out by overzealous Roombas with authority issues, Jess figured the tattoo was probably the least weird thing about her day. She was wrong. That distinction was coming in about 2 weeks. The Cosmic Drip was the kind of establishment that made you question your life choices just by walking through the door. Jess had been questioning hers for 2 weeks now, ever since she had taken this job slinging coffee to aliens who could not understand why humans insisted on drinking bean water. One quantum latte, hold the antimatter, she called out, sliding a cup across the counter to a patron who had too many eyes and not enough appreciation for sarcasm. The door slid open with a wheeze that suggested it had given up on life sometime last year. In walked Rix, a mammalian alien who looked like someone had combined a fennec fox with a golden retriever and given the result crippling anxiety. Hello, yes, hi, greetings, Rix stammered, his enormous ears twitching. I would like one, coffee please, the brown kind. Jess stared at him. They're all brown. Right, yes, of course, I knew that. I am a very experienced bounty hunter, you see, and I know things about coffee. He was holding a scanner that looked like it had been cutting-edge technology approximately never, and it was pointed directly at her. That's subtle, Jess said. What? This? Oh, this is just my medical scanner. I have a condition. A scanning condition, where I must scan constantly or I will explode. Sure you do. Rix ordered another coffee, then another. Then 14 more, each time adjusting his scanner's settings and getting increasingly nervous. By the 17th coffee, his scanner was making a noise like a car alarm having an existential crisis. Then it locked onto her shoulder. The device let out a sound that Jess could only describe as electronic screaming, and displayed a message in bright red text. Apex predator kill, mark detected. Threat level, extinction event. Rix looked at the scanner, looked at Jess, looked at the scanner again. Then he fainted, taking all 17 coffees with him in a cascade of spilled beverages and shattered dignity. Station security arrived 6 minutes later, which was actually pretty fast for them. Chief Druk, a four-armed alien who looked like he had not slept since the station was built, surveyed the scene with the expression of someone who was not paid enough for this. "Let me guess," he said in a voice that suggested he had given up long ago. "Another scanner malfunction." "Apparently my tattoo is an extinction event," Jess said, wiping coffee off the counter. Druk's four eyes narrowed. "Your what is a what now?" The station security office smelled like industrial cleaner and broken dreams. Jess sat in a chair that was designed for someone with a completely different skeletal structure, while Chief Druk attempted to wake up Rix by waving ammonia capsules under his nose. "I am telling you," Druk said for the 5th time, "this is clearly a database error. Those scanners have not been updated since the Yalric Accords." "That was 200 years ago," his deputy offered helpfully. "Exactly. Ancient garbage technology." Druk pulled up the Galactic Predator database on his terminal, which loaded with all the speed of continental drift. "We will run your tattoo through the system. It will come back negative, and we can all go back to our lives of quiet desperation." He scanned Jess's shoulder. The computer made a sound like a digital funeral dirge. "Match confirmed," the screen announced cheerfully. "Pattern identified, predecessor, territorial mark. Instances found, 12 documented extinction events." The office went very quiet. "That is not a database error," Druk said slowly. The computer helpfully displayed a timeline. 12 species, spanning 50,000 years each, spread across the entire galaxy. Every single one had been found extinct with these exact geometric marks burned into their planet's surfaces. Massive territorial warnings visible from orbit. "So," Jess said, because someone had to say something. "Fun fact. I got this tattoo at a place called Angry Eddie's Ink Shack in New Jersey. Eddie said he copied it from an old magazine." "An old magazine," Druk repeated. "Yeah, he had a whole collection. Said this one was from a sci-fi pulp from the 1950s. I thought it looked cool." Rix, who had finally regained consciousness, made a noise like a squeaky toy being stepped on. "The predecessors," he whispered. "The apex predator species. They died out millions of years ago. They were the only species to achieve faster-than-light travel before the current galactic civilization. They owned everything." "Owned?" Jess asked. "They marked territory like," Rix gestured vaguely, "like Earth canines. But instead of trees, they marked species, entire species, as warnings to others." "So you are telling me," Jess said, her voice taking on that special quality it got right before she did something that would horrify the Galactic Council, "that I accidentally got the tattoo of the galaxy's most terrifying apex predator species because a tattoo artist in New Jersey had good taste in vintage sci-fi." "That appears to be the situation, yes," Druk said. "And these predecessors, they are dead, right?" The deputy cleared his throat. "Well, that is where things get complicated. There have been reports. Frontier worlds going dark, technology signatures that match predecessor artifacts. The Council has been suppressing the information to avoid panic." "Of course they have," Jess muttered. Druk stood up, all four arms moving in a gesture that suggested he was about to make a decision he would regret. "I am calling the Galactic Council." "The same council that fired me 2 weeks ago?" "The very same, because if the predecessors are returning, they are going to want to know why a human bartender is wearing their territorial marking like a fashion statement." The Galactic Council chamber looked exactly the same as it had 2 weeks ago, except now Ambassador Krill's feathers were trembling, Overseer Tanex was leaving a nervous slime trail, and Chancellor Vorn's crystalline structure was flickering like a broken light bulb. "Captain Kwan," Krill began, and Jess noted he had dropped the condescending tone entirely. "We may have been, perhaps, slightly hasty in our previous judgment." "You fired me for being too good at my job." "Yes, well, in retrospect, that may have been." He paused, searching for words. "Phenomenally stupid." Jess had never heard a Galactic Council member admit to being stupid before. This was already going better than expected. Professor Helm scuttled forward, his insectoid body clicking against the floor. He was a xenobiologist, which meant he spent most of his time studying dead things and making everyone else uncomfortable with his encyclopedic knowledge of extinction events. The predecessors, Helm began in his lecture voice, were the apex predator species of the galaxy. They achieved faster than light travel approximately 5 million years before our current civilization. They were territorial, efficient, and utterly dominant. They marked their territory using these, he projected an image of Jess's tattoo, geometric patterns. Any species that ignored the warnings was systematically eliminated. Cool, Jess said. And they are dead now, right? We believe so. Until 3 months ago, when frontier colonies began reporting attacks using technology that predates our civilization by millennia. Weapons that disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Ships that move faster than our sensors can track. And these marks, he gestured to the projection, burned into planetary surfaces. Tannix's slug body contracted nervously. We have kept this information classified to prevent galaxy-wide panic. Of course you have, Jess said. Let me guess. You want me to help you now? We would be. Krill's feathers ruffled. Grateful for your assistance. 2 weeks ago I was a barbaric human who did not understand civilized warfare. Today I am your best hope. That is a hell of a character arc. Chancellor Vorn's crystal structure pulsed. Captain Kwan, we understand your anger, but the situation is dire. These attacks are escalating. We have lost 14 colonies in the past month alone. Jess leaned back in her chair, which was still designed for someone with a different spine. Here is what I do not understand. Why does my tattoo matter? I got it from a drunk tattoo artist on Earth. How would he have access to predecessor markings? The council members exchanged glances. It was the kind of glance that suggested they were about to reveal something they had been hiding for a very long time. About that, Krill said slowly, we need to show you something. Something we should have told humanity 30 years ago when you joined the galactic community. This is going to be bad, isn't it? Jess said. That depends on your definition of bad, Professor Helm said, pulling up a new file. But if your definition includes galaxy-spanning conspiracy and the suppression of your species' true origins, then yes, it is going to be spectacularly bad. Part 5. The Truth Bomb. The file that Professor Helm opened was labeled Project Genesis, Classification Level Maximum, Suppress Indefinitely, Seriously do not open this. Someone had opened it anyway. 60 million years ago, Helm began, the predecessors were at the height of their power. They controlled 40% of the known galaxy. Then, for reasons we still do not fully understand, they left. Left? Jess asked. Like, left the galaxy? Essentially, but before they departed, they did something unusual. They seeded multiple worlds with their DNA, genetic experiments, redundancy protocols. No one knows exactly why. He pulled up a star chart with 17 highlighted systems. These worlds were marked with genetic sequences that match predecessor biology. 16 of them developed sentient life that burned out quickly. Too aggressive, too territorial, unable to form stable societies. Jess had a sinking feeling she knew where this was going. The 17th world, Helm continued, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic display, showed more promise. The species that evolved there was violent, yes, but also creative, adaptable, and surprisingly cooperative within their own social groups. They called their planet Earth. The silence in the chamber was the kind that comes right before someone says something that changes everything. You are telling me, Jess said slowly, that humans are descended from the predecessors. Direct genetic descendants, yes, Helm confirmed. The Council has known about Earth's origins since we first encountered your species. The genetic markers were unmistakable. But we made a decision to suppress this information. Why? Jess's voice had gone very quiet, which anyone who knew her understood was more dangerous than shouting. Tannix's slug body quivered. Because the predecessors controlled 40% of known space. If humanity discovered they were the rightful heirs to that territory, there would be chaos, wars, territorial disputes. We decided it was safer to keep you isolated, limited, controlled. That is why you fired me, Jess said, the pieces clicking together. Not because I was too violent, because I was too effective, too much like the predecessors. You were afraid that humans would start acting like the apex predators we actually are. Krill's feathers drooped. Yes. And the attacks? The ones destroying colonies. Professor Helm pulled up another display. When the predecessors left, they activated automated defense systems, artificial intelligence guardians designed to protect their territorial claims. These systems went dormant when the predecessors departed, but something has reactivated them. They are now eliminating any species they perceive as trespassing in predecessor space. Which is 40% of the galaxy, Jess said. Correct. And there is only one species they will recognize as authorized controllers. Helm looked at her directly. Humans. Specifically, humans carrying the correct genetic markers and authorization codes. Authorization codes, Jess repeated flatly. The tattoo, Rick squeaked from where he had been standing quietly in the corner. The geometric pattern. It is not just a territorial mark. It is an access code. Professor Helm nodded. Precisely. That tattoo artist in New Jersey somehow had access to genuine predecessor authorization markings. Where he obtained them, we may never know. But that pattern on your shoulder is the key to shutting down the defense grid before it eliminates everyone in predecessor territory. Jess looked down at her tattoo, at the geometric pattern she had gotten because it looked cool and she had lost a bet. The pattern that was apparently the genetic equivalent of an administrator password to an ancient killing machine. So let me get this straight, she said. You fired me because I was too much like my apex predator ancestors. Then those ancestors' defense system woke up and started killing everyone. And now you need me to shut it down using the tattoo I got drunk in New Jersey because the universe has a truly spectacular sense of irony. That is, Chancellor Vorn said carefully, an accurate summary, yes. Jess let them sweat for approximately 30 seconds before she spoke. I have conditions. Name them, Krill said immediately, which showed just how desperate they were. Full restoration of my rank and all honors. Humanity gets full voting rights in the Galactic Council, not observer status, and free coffee for life. The good stuff, not that synthetic garbage. Done, all three council members said simultaneously. I love how you did not even hesitate on the coffee part. Really shows where your priorities are. Jess stood up. Fine. Where is this predecessor command station? 6 hours later, Jess was on a council stealth ship with a crew of absolutely terrified aliens. Rix had volunteered to come along, which was either brave or stupid, possibly both. I just want to say, Rix said for the 8th time, I am very sorry about the scanner incident and the coffee. Stop apologizing and help me figure out how we are supposed to dock with a station that is millions of years old. The predecessor command station hung in space like a geometric nightmare, all angles that hurt to look at and materials that seemed to absorb light. As their ship approached, the station came to life, energy signatures blooming across its surface. It is scanning us, the pilot said, her tentacles gripping the controls with white-knuckle intensity. A beam of light swept across the ship, and Jess felt something warm on her shoulder. Her tattoo was glowing. Okay, she said. That is new. The station's docking bay opened like a massive mouth, and really the predecessors had not been subtle with their design language. The ship settled onto a landing platform that looked like it had been waiting patiently for millions of years. Jess stepped out into the station and immediately every surface began to glow with the same geometric pattern as her tattoo. Lines of light raced along walls, converging on a central console that rose from the floor. It recognizes you, Professor Helm said, his voice filled with scientific wonder. The genetic markers, the authorization code, everything. Jess approached the console. It was, unmistakably, designed for human hands. 5 fingers, specific grip patterns, even a height that suggested her species' average build. No pressure, she muttered. But I am about to touch an ancient alien superweapon control panel and hope I do not accidentally delete the galaxy. The moment her hand touched the console, information flooded into her mind. Not painful, but overwhelming. System status, defense grid locations, threat assessments, and buried deep in the code, a password prompt. For the command to deactivate the entire defense network, she needed to enter the master authorization code. Jess stared at the prompt. Millions of years of apex predator civilization, the most advanced species the galaxy had ever known, guardians of 40% of known space, and they had protected all of it with a password. She typed, password 123. The system accepted it. "You have got to be kidding me," she said out loud. "What is wrong?" Rix asked nervously. The predecessors, the most advanced species in galactic history, protected their entire defense network with the password 123. "That seems," Professor Helm began. "Stupid? Yeah. Turns out apex predators are not great at cybersecurity." The station's lights shifted from red to blue. Across the galaxy, automated defense systems powered down. Colonies stopped exploding. The extinction-level threat ended because Jess had correctly guessed that ancient humanity was just as bad at passwords as modern humanity. Back at the Galactic Council chamber 3 weeks later, Jess stood in her restored uniform as the newly appointed human ambassador to the Galactic Council. "We want to thank you," Ambassador Krill began. "Stop," Jess interrupted. "I know what you are going to say. Thank you for saving us. Humanity is welcome. We are so sorry for being awful. Just give me my voting rights and my coffee and we will call it even." "Of course, Ambassador Kwan." Jess turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, one more thing. I am thinking about getting another tattoo. Maybe something symmetrical on the other shoulder." All 3 council members went pale, which was impressive considering their various biologies. "I am kidding," Jess said. "Probably." As she walked out, Rix hurried to catch up. "Ambassador, that was cruel. They fired me for being human. I am allowed to be a little cruel." She grinned. "Besides, I actually am getting another tattoo. Angry Eddie has a design from a magazine dated 1962. It is some kind of mathematical formula. I am sure it is fine." Behind her, she could hear the council members starting to panic again. Humanity had officially arrived in galactic politics, and the galaxy was never going to be the same.